everyone, Rascal here.
And Mama, welcome to our podcast.
Today we're covering one of Mama's favorite movies, The Mummy.
Yes, finally. I can't believe we've never done it before now. But now, we're finally doing it.
Yes.
And to be clear, first we're talking about the original, well, not the original, the second remake. The first one was made in 1932, but the one we're discussing is what we consider to be the original film from 1999, not the 2016 remake with Tom Cruise, which we started watching and cut it off. Sorry. Now, this film stars Brendan Fraiser as a cocky treasure hunter who's tasked with finding a cocky and dashing treasure hunter.
Oh my
who
God!
is tasked with finding a secret treasure within the tomb of a cursed mummy.
Yes. But before we start, be sure to like, subscribe, click notification bell updates on future podcasts and we'll pause videos.
Now, I know that doesn't sound like a very exciting description, but this movie is exciting. I have literally seen this movie so many times I've lost count. Every time it shows up on TV and I'm turning the channel, I watch it. If it's on demand, I've watched it. I own it. I've seen it I don't know how many times. And then we've watched it so many times since we've owned it. So this literally is one of my most favorite movies of all time. I think it's perfect in every way. There is nothing they could have done better with this movie except for made it longer.
Right.
That's the only thing that would have been better.
Right.
It's just perfect in every way. And as we mentioned, it stars Brendan Fraiser, who I don't think there's anyone who dislikes him. He seems like such a nice guy, and this, I think, is one of his most famous movies of all time.
Yes.
That he's done. It also stars Rachel Weisz, Kevin J. O'Connor, and Rachel Weisz. You've known for various movies, including Constantine, the first one with Keanu Reeves.
Yes. And this one, as you said, it's been seen so many times. You even got a Blu-ray of it. And it's really, what really stands the test of how well the writing is, how well it's made, is that not only is it like Indiana Jones with it just being a really fun adventure movie with some scares in it, it's so well written that, no matter how many times you see it, you can't get tired of it. And it's so well done that even when they tried to remake it in 2017, it just paled in comparison. Actually, we made it twice. They made that, and then they tried to do a independent movie where they had dinosaurs in it too. They had zombies, and they had Godzilla show up. So it's not even the Mummy anymore. So it kind of tells you that this should not be touched.
Cowboys versus mummies versus dinosaurs versus
Godzilla.
That's what it sounds like.
Yeah.
What really works with this movie is the perfect balance of drama and horror and comedy and romance all into one.
Yes.
Tom Cruise's version just started off horrific.
It's all
there was
horror.
Nothing about it that had charm or an interesting story. It was just meant to scare people. And there's enough more movies like that around. This is what made this particular movie and version stand out, is that, again, it's got 4 different genres in one.
Right.
And it works, and it's perfectly balanced. And you end up liking the 3 MCs, the 3 main characters. Brendan Fraser's character, as you said, the treasure hunter, and Evie, who's the historian, who also has a vast knowledge of Egyptian history.
Right.
And she and her brother, who is a thief, have a knowledge of knowing how to speak the Egyptian language and reading hieroglyphs. And you end up liking all of them. And they travel. His name's Rick O'Connell, Brendan Fraser's character, and they travel to Hamunaptra. I want to say the same way she did in the movie Hamunaptra. They traveled there to look for the Book of the Dead in the City of the Dead, if I'm not mistaken. And you also have this other group that's there that's basically there to do tomb raiding.
Yes.
And in addition to looking for the book, they want to take the treasures out of the tomb.
Yes.
And so, while they're there, they stupidly set off a curse, or I should say, they reactivate a curse and bring a mummy back to life who was buried alive and eaten alive by beetles.
Yeah, you know, for kids.
By beetles. And not the beetles like you can eat like crickets. These are like man-eating
scarab beetles.
Scarabs.
Yeah.
That's what they're called in Egypt. Very good. And they ate him alive and took off his flesh, and they bring him back alive. And in this version, he keeps killing people, and he regenerates more and more until he's fully back. And of course, they make him very tall, very good looking, with a great body. And then the woman that he was cheating with, and why he was murdered for cheating with her, they make her very beautiful. So everyone in here who's main characters is very attractive.
Right, it's like, go figure.
It's like an anime.
Right? And then what's ironic is that the woman he cheats with ends up being the main one in the remake. So when they did that, I thought that was kind of like backwards, because it's like, no, he is the mummy. This guy, the prince, is the mummy, not her. But in the Tom Cruise version, she's the one that's the mummy. She's the one with the curse. Apparently it's been flipped where he was in the wrong and she was wrongfully punished. They had reversed the script. Like, I mean, it shouldn't have been done in the first place. They were both bad guys in this movie. That's no mistake there. But the remake paints it as if she was the real victim and he's the one that lied on her, and then she's the one that's trying to curse the entire world because of what he did. And it's kind of like, wait, this is a whole new story. Where's the adventure? Where's the excitement? It just sounds like it's a ghost story.
So what they should have done is just made an entire new movie with that script and call it something else.
Right.
And then maybe it would have been successful. But when you're trying to pretend that it's this mummy, it's not.
Right.
And you have Benny, who's a thief also.
Yes,
and
Benny.
He's a trader. He speaks various languages, and so he's able to, you know, to betray people at will because he speaks all these different languages.
Right.
And he and O'Connell have a history, and he's betrayed him and turned on him many times. And I love not only of course the clothing is appropriate for the times. I love the setting, the backdrop, I just love everything about this movie. Everything about it works. Even the accompanying soundtrack is perfect. All the music is perfect.
Right.
There's not anything you're listening to and go, this doesn't fit here.
Right.
They should have done something different. No, it works.
Right.
And then one of my favorite parts is our Nana used to love a series from the 60s called Bewitched. I think it ran from the late 60s or mid 60s to the early 70s. And so we ended up watching this series with her on DVD when we bought her the entire series. Mm-hmm. And a character from that show called Dr. Bombay played a character in here who was a pilot that took them to Hamanotra, and they got close enough. And unfortunately in here he gets killed when they crash. But it was so funny seeing him. I was like, oh my gosh, that's Dr. Bombay. And you will see different people in here, you know, like the guy who is, his name is Oman. What is his name? He was actually in Deuce Bigelow, Mel Gigolo.
Oh my gosh.
He was the guy who was the head one, and who he wanted to train him to be a successful gigolo.
Yes.
And he plays the guy who is the head of the group who makes sure that people don't awaken the curse or disturb the tomb.
Right.
His name is Oded Fair.
Okay.
Oded Fair. I think I pronounced it correctly. So you saw him in a gang. He's good looking. So all the main people in here are like an anime and they're good looking.
Yeah, I think that's hilarious.
So again, you'll see other people you know in here as well from other movies. There's another guy in here who I actually used to see on Stargate SG-1.
Yeah.
He's also in the original Stargate movie.
Mm-hmm.
It's just and he's also in The Chosen. So there's so many people that appear in here who some were not really big stars at the time. Of course, Brendan Fraiser was, Rachel Weisz was, that became bigger later, and you know them from henceforth from The Mummy.
Right.
But this movie is just so much fun to watch. It's so exciting. It's a thrill. It's one of those movies that if you happen to see it as a child, you'll never forget it. I didn't see it as a child, but I still won't forget it. But it's one of those movies that makes an impression that you remember as being a feel-good movie, a great movie, something that becomes a part of your top 10 favorites, and The Mummy is one of my top 10 favorites of all time.
Yeah.
It will never be dethroned. I will never get tired of watching it or seeing it, and it doesn't matter how many times I see it, I sit and watch it like, oh, this is going to be exciting.
Yeah.
Oh, this movie's going to be great. And it's like, but you've seen it a billion times. And no, but I'm like, Kashima, it's so cool. I want to see it again. And I do know there are some rascals that also love this movie, like I do, if I'm not mistaken. I think one is Ozzy.
Yes.
And
yes, huge fan of that.
So this is just one of those movies that is unforgettable, that really set a standard during that time of what this type of movie should be.
Yes.
And I think still to this day, if they want a good movie like this, they should use it as a pattern, trying to gain, instead of making a lot of the crap that we don't want to see.
Yeah. Yeah. And it has 2 sequels. There's The Mummy Returns and The Mummy in the Tomb of the Dragon, I think that's the name of it. So, and then they had, you said, 2 remakes. They had an animated series, and they had a prequel called The Scorpion King. So they managed to get
Dwayne Johnson.
Right. So they managed to get a lot out of this franchise. And the thing is that, you know, is you can't really remake this. It's one of those movies where you do it once, you get it right once. And it's like The Fifth Element and Die Hard and some of these other movies. They are adventure movies. It's an adventure movie with all the elements mixed together, and it's got everything you would want in a film, and you know it's the good guy versus the bad guy, and it's fun, and you can't wait to see what happens. You want to see how they get out of it, and it really is what you like to see in cinema. You don't want to see it just be horror and terror and nightmare fuel 24/7 unless that's the type of thing you like, because I think that's what alienated a lot of audience in the remake, is that they were trying so hard to just be this really scary mummy movie that's hell-bent on taking over the world, that they forgot to make it an adventure film. It's more like you gotta take it out or that's the end. So that's what's really missing from the new incarnations. They're missing the fun and the elements, the adventurous part, like you're in a game.
And also the set, because when we were watching, I was like, this doesn't look right. I think so much care was taken to make sure, as I mentioned before, the costumes and the set were appropriate and accurate and beautifully done. I mean, you couldn't look and go, that looks modern, that looks out of place. Everything was perfectly done. But when I saw the beginning or the first 20 minutes of the 2016 version, all I was thinking was, this is like modern. This doesn't look like a time period piece, because they decided to make it modern day, and that also ruined the effect that the movie had.
Right.
So, you know, I get what they were trying to do, but I think what they should have done is just made an entirely new movie, called it something else, and then done that story.
Right.
Instead of trying to make one character from this movie appear in it,
right,
and think, oh, well, yeah, I remember her,
right,
and I'm gonna watch it, because no, that just didn't do it.
Nope.
So yes, we've seen the sequels, and for me, the first movie is the best one out of all of them. Again, it's theatrical perfection, and it will always be one of my top 10 favorites of all time. It's never, ever, ever gonna get dethroned.
Right.
So, if you have seen The Mummy, and I know you have, let us know what you think in the comments below. And if you haven't, where have you been? Why not?
Right.
Buy it. See it. And you might as well buy it instead of watching the streaming service, because once you see it, you're going to want to own it.
Right.
And definitely get it on Blu-ray so you can see it in all its outstanding detail and vibrancy and color that it so deserves to be seen in.
Right. And if you haven't already, subscribe for updates and weekly videos on your favorite anime series, animated shows, and all things animation.
Yes, and thank you so much for listening and joining us and talking about one of my most favorite theatrical movies ever.
Yes. So, thank you so much for watching. I'm Rascal Entertainment.
And I'm Mom Entertainment.
Have a toontastic day.
Peace.